Hey everybody, I'm Alejandro Perez, the CGI Nerd, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the hou module for Python, and that is kind of how we interface with Houdini using Python. So, one of the best places to start looking at using Python and understanding it is inside of the context menu. So, contents, and that opens up this menu here. And if we scroll down to references or reference, there's a Python scripting section. And then on this here, it gives us information on what we might want to use. So hom could be useful, but what we're going to be looking at is the reference for hou. So when we click that, it gives us all of the hou commands that we can use in our journeys scripting for Houdini. So there's a lot that we can do here and kind of search. So a lot of the time what we start off with is node. So the hou.node, there we go, but not with a capital N. There's a hou.node with a capital N, and there is a hou.node with a lowercase n. There we go. hou.node. So we go here and then it gives us some example code on how to use the hou.node and kind of how to work with it. So we're going to actually look at some of this with our code. So I'm going to open up the shell, Python shell. Here you go. So if we go to, let's import hou. So with importing hou, we're basically getting this information here. I think it's in the shell. You really don't need to do it because it does it for you automatically. But it's a good habit to understand that you need to import modules when you're working with them. Now we can look at the next line here. It says hou.node /obj. So what does this do for us? That gives us access to the obj context here. So if we push enter, it just shows us that node. It says hou.node at obj. So if we hold this into a variable, let's say obj is equal to hou.node, lowercase n, and then /obj. Okay, so that holds a variable for us, and that is .obj. So this next line here where it says create geo, we can copy that, and we could do what they show an example of, hou.node obj.create node geo. And if we do that and run it, we can see that we get a Geo Node here in the network view. So we have the object for the geometry node here. Let's kind of expand that one more time. So we can add a comma here and give it a name. So let's say test geo. Okay, so if I run this now, we can see it creates a geometry node named test geo. So that is really cool for us to know. And then let's clear this. Now we can do the same thing we had there. So let's clear that, but let's get rid of the beginning part and use obj. So over here, remember we created a variable called obj and we made it equal to hou.node, and we're looking at the obj context. So we're going to create a node, same node that we did a moment ago, but we're going to create it using that variable. So if we run that, we can see that it does it for us. So it makes it a lot easier for us to be able to access and do things. So let's clear this, and let's say we do that same code there, but we're going to hold this into a variable. So we're going to say myGeo is equal to this. So now we have access to this geometry node. What can we do with the geometry node? We can go into it and create something. So let's figure out what we want to create and what type of node it is called. So this gave us the shorthand for creating a geometry node there. But what if we didn't know that? So what it gives it to us, if we go to information here, we can say geometry object, geo. So that name here in parentheses is the call that we can use, the argument that we can use to create that type of node. So let's say we wanted to create a box. We have a box in the scene. Now if we go in and we look at the information here, we have box, box. We can see that the shorthand there is box for box, for the command to reference it. So if we do, we have to create that geo again, then we can say myGeo dot create node box, comma, let's name it my box. We can run this and we can see it creates the box inside of here. So because we're referencing the myGeo and then we create a node, we're creating a node inside of myGeo. So this is nice. We're doing it one line at a time, but if we could create a shelf button to automate processes that we want to do. So we could do the same kind of thing. Let's do a new tool. We'll just create a box, item, create box. Okay, and then we can go into the script. We're going to say import who. Then we're going to say hou.node obj, and we'll call this obj equals, and then let's jump to the end, and then let's say we're going to create a geometry. So we're going to say myGeo equals obj dot create node geo, and then we're going to call it myGeo. Then we're going to create a box inside of there. So we're going to say this is our box, and we're going to say it is myGeo dot not dot box dot create node box my box. Okay, so I'm going to apply all this, and then we have this shelf button here now, create box. If I click on it, it creates a geometry node and it creates a box inside of it. So each one of these nodes here have a command that you can run that is as code. So let's bring up the Python shell really quick. Okay, so now here we can do box.as code, and I am not 100% sure if the casing is there. You might need a capital C, but we'll try it right here. And let's just print that box node there as code. So let's apply and then run this. You can see it give us an error, and it's obviously this line, so let's say as code, apply, and then let's run it again. And here we go. We have the box node as Python code. So if you're curious on how any of the nodes were created, you can actually get the Python code. So you can see the code for that module or that node. All this here is what it takes to script. So all of that is what it takes to be able to make this box from scratch. But we don't need it make it from scratch because it exists. All we got to do is modify it, but it gives you an idea of things that you want to look at. So you can see that it has who parameters, And you can kind of figure out what there's if statements, and you can learn a lot from looking at these nodes and how they're built. But it's something that is really cool that if you wanted to kind of figure out something, you can actually look at any node inside of Houdini, break it down into its code, and see how it was built, so that way you can build your own tools. So that is it for the intro for the Who module. We looked at nodes, creating nodes, and being able to kind of find some information about the Python code within the Who module. I hope you found this useful. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!